All right, we're at the 2025 SSA conference again in Cincinnati, talking to Max. And Max, what is your shirt, by the way? I just noticed it says Jesus on there.
So my shirt says Jesus was thrown under the bus so God could get clout. And
So God could get clout.
yes.
Did you get that here for free? Did you buy it somewhere? Did you invent it?
I bought it here actually, and it was pretty cool. It was given by or sold by
Some group.
by one of the groups here. Yes.
Yeah, definitely a secular group. I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
Just going to take a wild stab at that. Why is under the bus is upside down?
Yes.
Because under the bus is would be under, and so it's like upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea, just to be clear, as I understand it, the idea is that God let His Son die so He could get some glory out of it.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So, tell me what brought you to where you were in life. You reached a point where you saw a shirt like this at the SSA convention, and you were like, "I want to wear this." And are you planning to wear this when you're back in San Antonio, where you're from?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, at the campus and so on, University of San Antonio. All right, so tell me what brought you to this? Were you like always thinking this was really cool?
So I think.
Which, in other words, what's your story of
Yes.
what brought you to an SSA convention?
No,
First
yes.
one.
So what really brought me here was I had always been secular, I would say. I was always questioning like if there's a God, or if there is, what's their place in my life, and like why certain things are happening and stuff.
Yeah, it's a pretty natural exploration living. You grew up in America, right? You grew up in San Antonio, you told me. So clearly that's like you're going to at some point think, what about this God thing? But were you, like your family, do you have siblings?
No, I have no siblings actually.
Only child. And you lived with both parents you did growing up?
Lived with one parent until I was 14. Then I transitioned to living with my mom, and that went until like college started.
Okay. So you grew up with your dad.
I did grow
Was he remarried?
How do I describe it?
It would seem like yes or no.
He's not remarried, but I do have a lifetime protective order against him.
Okay, so you grew up with him, but since you left,
Yes.
you secured a lifetime protection order. Okay. I don't even need to go into details. I just was more just trying to picture the general your background. But that's obviously pretty serious. And he lives in that area still? San Antonio, Texas?
He's in prison.
He's in
now.
prison. Okay, all right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get into all the details of your personal life. But and you then moved in with your mom.
Yes.
Did you know your mom before that?
I did know her because they had like 1/3 custody, so it was like only in like summers.
So you would go spend time with her in the summers. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I had just my family background, lots of divorces, remarriages, step siblings. I went back and forth between the houses at times. So I can relate to that part. I can't say I relate to every part, of course.
Yeah.
So was attending church any part of your life when you were with your dad?
It was a significant portion.
And at the time, was this something that it was supposed to be this serious? We really believe this stuff.
It was supposed to be very. It was very like built into his belief system.
Yeah. Was this like a conservative form of Christianity? Was it? What
It was
was
very conservative form of Christianity.
Not surprising in Texas.
Not surprising.
Was it denominationally centric or Pentecostal or?
It was non-denominational, I think,
Okay.
is the phrase they
All right.
use.
Like Dallas Seminary World type thing. You know what I'm talking about when I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's like a billion pastors in Texas that came out of Dallas Seminary that start churches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, when I would go to like Sunday school or even back when I was like 3 and 4, I went to a Catholic preschool actually. And I was always questioning that this doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So already you were like, eh. Yeah. I
Yeah.
relate because I had to go to a parochial school and I had doubts very early. It was like, not buying it.
Yes. And
So how long? So then you went into what happened after that?
then after that, I think I was entering 8th grade actually. And I had to talk with my mom, like, since, in my family, she's one of the first people I know to stop attending church.
Okay, so she wasn't during those times you would spend it in the summer. She wasn't going to these kind of churches anymore. Any church.
Any church.
At what age were you when you know you remember? Yeah, she wasn't going to any church.
I think when I turned 10, so like 5 years after the divorce.
Okay, that she then stopped altogether, and still to this day hasn't gone back to the church.
No.
And does she still would still think of herself as a Christian, as someone who believes in a higher power, or just totally atheistic, or just in a generic way? I'm not trying to divulge all her
No,
private beliefs,
yeah.
but
I
just so I
think
get a picture.
I think she more so just like fell out of love with the Bible. I think that's the best way to put it. I feel like she believes there's something, but it wasn't working for her.
Yeah,
Like,
the vast majority of Americans believe in some type of God, higher power, however you want to describe it. I mean, God, I think, is still at like 82% or something, or maybe it might be 90%. I'm not sure, depending on how you define it. But yeah, theism is the norm for most people. Something. There's something beyond. So, was there? Well, I don't want to go. I can't ask those questions because I don't want to ask about her, but the specifics. But did that have an influence on you then?
that did have a major
Yeah.
influence on me because I was like, why is this caretaker in my life so heavy in the church, but this one so like the other side of the coin,
Yeah.
basically. And I was like,
Would you say apathetic or indifferent or opposed to the other side?
I would say she was actually actively opposed to it.
Yeah, not totally surprising, right? Because if you leave, then you tend to have feelings about what you've left. Usually not
Yes.
positive.
Yes.
And obviously it's related. Sometimes that gets wrapped up in the relationship stuff too. So all right. So do you mind if I ask roughly what age your dad went into prison?
My dad went into prison at 17
When you were 17.
when I was 17.
Okay. All right. So you went to live with your mom. You were no longer with your dad. He was not in prison for a few years because you said you went at 14 to live with your mom. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so obviously that must have influenced you because you're at the very least, he was the religious one. Now he's in prison. So unless he is totally innocent and has been wronged by the justice system, then that probably means there was something going on there that was at least some level of hypocrisy.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. And you don't have any communication, right, anymore?
No.
None. Okay. If you were to have a communication, and this might be unanswerable,
Okay.
would his perspective be I'm an innocent guy in jail, or I screwed up, I still believe what I believed before, and I simply failed to live up to what I knew to be the truth and what is good and so on? I'm saying what do you think he would actually think?
What he's thinking right now is he thinks he's innocent.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's what I was wondering. Okay. So that's clearly all playing into your whole perspective. And this maybe is more relevant to me. The church he was in, the people. Did you have contact with them after, through all this? What would they say? He's innocent and he shouldn't be in jail?
No. No.
Okay.
They weren't very supportive of him
Okay.
in that manner. And
Okay. So and your view is he's not innocent.
yeah,
Okay.
to
All right.
me he's not innocent.
Okay,
No.
all right. So the reason I'm asking this question is for one reason, because you could look back and say, well, the people who were religious in that church world, right? To whatever degree there might be things you totally disagree with about now, right? And all sorts of things. Who knows what you think? Or you may tell me more. But as far as your dad's concerned, they share more of your view, I guess. Okay, all right. So. Because it would be, I guess I was thinking it'd be like even harder if they're all like supportive of someone you think is, because then you would think, oh, they're all hypocrites. But I guess in that respect, they're not all hypocrites in that detail, small thing. Not small, but I mean that one thing. All right, I'm trying to dance around, not talking about any more than that, other than to get my picture in my head. Now tell me, from there, okay, you're with your mom, you're not
Okay.
going to church anymore, you've had doubts all along. At what point then were you like going through the phase of, I really don't think any of this is true, which I'm guessing is sort of where you are, or maybe you still believe in a higher power, I don't know.
No, yeah.
Or still spiritual in some way, I don't know, whatever. You'll have to define for me what your current
No,
beliefs
yeah.
are.
My current beliefs are, I feel like the universe has like energy or something, since it's like always expanding, and I think that allowed us to be here. That's what I believe.
And this energy, by that, because you could have just said, yeah, just think that basically just a mindless universe came into existence and we just are here. It'd just be a naturalist view, philosophically. But you said it a little differently, and I'm sensing there's a reason you did that.
Yeah, I believe like the energy like causes good things to happen, bad things to happen,
Okay.
and we're all on our course.
And the energy is not necessarily impersonal, or more like the Force in Star Wars or something. I don't know. I'm not trying to diminish it. I'm just trying to get a sense for it.
Let me think. I think it's more so just like karmic.
Okay. Yeah.
I-
So the universe rewards people who do well and punishes people who don't. Is that the idea?
That's the idea.
Yeah. And it's the cause of why it favors good actions over bad actions is less of a concern for you, or you are still interested in that?
I feel like it's not a concern to me.
Yeah, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
It seems to reward good actions and punish bad ones, as a general rule. So in that sense, does that mean that morality is not just sort of materialistic, I guess? Like there is something, this energy, this way the universe is, that is that, I don't know if that's the right question to ask when I say, is it immaterial? You know what I mean by that?
Immaterial, like, I feel like maybe not immaterial, but maybe more so just like,
Immaterial would mean that science would never have the tools to truly access it or track it and be able to harness it and so on. That's what immaterial ultimately would mean.
oh, I feel like,
Couldn't go in there and tweak it. To take the wind,
yeah.
you can harness it and sail. You can use the wind to your advantage or to generate power through wind turbines, and so you can you can manipulate it a little bit and use it to your advantage. But is this karmic energy thing like that given enough time and enough understanding, humans, you view it as sort of like humans could get in and somehow harness that and control it? Or is it more like, no, that's just this deep layer of reality of the way the universe is, and we'll never be able to truly just
I feel like
put it in a lab?
I feel like it's more so just like possibly like a law of nature, like we can't see it yet.
Yeah, okay, a law of nature. That's good. Yeah, okay, that makes sense to me now. All right, so, because those are also a big mystery, right? Why are the laws the way they are? And they're not strictly materialistic. The laws by themselves are not materialistic. Okay, that helps me. Now, that's your view. Do you feel like you could talk about that here at the SSA convention, a secular Student Alliance convention? Do you feel like you could say this and people would be convinced of this? They would think this is good. They would think, oh, that's not a big deal. Or would some of them go, hey, wait a second, that's kind of sounding almost quasi-religious?
I've like talked to like some of my secular group about like what I believe, and I don't think me having this belief is diminishing to my idea of secularism.
Okay. So, because it's more of a separation of church and state kind of view, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so let's talk about your back to where you were like, okay, I don't believe in God anymore. Mm-hmm. What were the biggest factors right at that time? Was it a 1 month time, a year or two of getting to that point of just saying, yeah, I just do not believe this anymore?
So my the biggest factors for me was really seeing how Christianity influenced people to do anti-Christian things and using...
That's quite a statement. It's a general rule, right? You know, if someone's influenced by this Christian thing, you'd think it would lead them to do Christian things. But you're saying in this case it was the reverse.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like when I would see like the pastor talking at my church Cornerstone, they would say that these queer folks are harming the world. They're going to go to hell. They're going to start taking away their sons and daughters. When I read the Bible, it said to not judge. That's like a commandment, not to judge others as you would judge yourself and stuff. And also really just...
Judge not, lest, yeah, you be judged. Anyway,
that
lest you
one.
be judged, yeah.
And then also like to love thy neighbor. Mm-hmm. And to me, when I read the Bible, it was very hopeful. And just like these ideals that people would hold themselves to, instead of just being, this is how you should always act. If someone does not act this way, they are harming you. And I feel like that's a way a lot of people take it at a lot of Southern churches, as if if this person is different, they aren't good people.
So at this time, what age are you roughly?
When I was like, I would be like 15, 16.
15, 16, yeah, high school years, say. And so you were reading, say, the Gospels. You quoted the Gospels there a few times. Or I think you were referring to things from the Gospels. And you're reading that yourself. You were actually reading it. Mm-hmm. And is that something you would just do daily or every once in a while? Or was it more like you were hearing the verses read at church?
I was hearing the verses read at church, but I was also in a AP theology course.
Yeah. And they had to read some of the Bible for the AP theology class, right?
Yes.
And so you were reading that, and then you were hearing the sermons. And so when you were reading, say, a gospel, did you guys read Mark or something in the AP theology class?
So we read the King James Version, and then also we looked at like the Greek translations. Mm-hmm. And then also we read forgot what version it was, but the purple one, it comes in like a purple like cover.
Okay.
And so we would debate like the arguments made in the Bible on if it's true or not, and then also how modern like interpretations of the Bible, like just like their morality and stuff, since that was like the main point of the course.
So you didn't necessarily like read an entire gospel as part of that.
Well, we read the whole King James version,
Of the entire Bible, you mean? Or the New
the
Testament?
entire Bible.
Oh,
The
you read the entire Bible in an AP class.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that the AP theology class read the whole. Anyway, so while you're doing that, anyway, you're reading, say, what Jesus was teaching and doing, and you're listening to sermons, and you're thinking, hey, they're getting this totally wrong based on what I read here. So did that for a time make you think, I'm going to defend Jesus? I'm going to stand up here and tell these Christians they've gotten Jesus completely wrong, and I'm going to be the true Christian.
Not really to me. To me, I took it as the complete opposite. I was like, if these people are preaching this do as I say, not as I do, and also just using snippets to reframe what their text is saying instead of taking it as a whole in order to push these points across of discrimination and hate, then something's just off about the whole thing to me personally. And so I took it as, this seems like untrue.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
So earlier you said, when I mentioned the comment, that's quite a statement. You said that their Christianity was influencing them to do, I think you said unchristian, anti-Christian, something like that, things.
Yeah.
So, and then you were characterizing that by quoting various parts of Jesus' teachings. You've now alluded to multiple things he said. And your point in all that, as I understood it, was that this is what Jesus actually taught, which I guess I got the impression you sort of liked that part of it. But then what these people are actually doing is totally against this.
Yeah.
So at that stage of the story, I'm asking you, it would sound like you were saying, this Jesus guy got a lot of things right, and he was wise and good, and these Christians have totally misunderstood the most basic things he taught. So now I'm asking, that sounds like somebody who's ready to say, I really like this Jesus guy, but I don't like these Christians. But that's not what you're saying happened.
So to me, how do I describe it? To me, there has been good Christians in my life. And I think they uphold good values that they believe themselves.
And by that, is good defined as consistent with what Jesus taught?
Consistent with what Jesus taught, and also just like being kind people.
Okay. And it's just in a general way, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, to me, if they are able to find contentment in how they view the world through this book or these groups of people, then that's okay with me, because everyone should have like their own beliefs. And I think,
but talking about your journey,
Yeah.
I'm interested in your where you went from. I'm just trying to get at the next stage. You
Okay.
know, you went from, and maybe you just need to recharacterize it. I don't really know. I'm not
Okay.
trying to. Trying to extract from you what's
Okay.
happened, and as best as you remember it. And the stage of this, I'm trying to get from, there were things Christians did that were against what Jesus taught, and I didn't like that,
yes.
to, I guess I don't like what Jesus taught, or what he did, or what? You fill in the blank.
Okay. So I think being influenced with the church like all my life, I've always seen like Jesus as this good man. Maybe not as like a holy figure as he's described, but like just this person that did good in the world. And I think that's like a fair statement to make. And so whether like people describe him as like a holy figure or like this apparition of God, to me, he was just like this martyr that was able to do good in a place that like didn't really appreciate him. And I feel like there's a big parallel with a lot of the people today. And so I felt that like account was like pretty interesting. And
Do you think you came to look at him like that in like high school, or even before that, at some point, or did you just not really? Can you not really put a time frame on it?
I think I always thought about him like that. Like whenever I first heard of him, I was like,
So you didn't think like when you were 13 or whatever, you didn't think, yeah, he's probably the Son of God who was raised from the dead.
no.
So even already then, while you were in middle school, you weren't thinking, I really believe this stuff.
No, I felt like that was like illogical. I thought maybe he was able to use like medicine or something to help people.
And if you were at that time, now granted I'm trying to get the time frame here right in my mind, but I think you said you were like 10 or so when your mom stopped going to church.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you were still going to a church during these years, and you must have been, I guess, at that point thinking, I just don't really think any of this is real, or most of what they're saying are like these, let's just call it the Nicene Creed type beliefs about Jesus, that you just didn't think they were real at that point already.
I didn't think they were real, or maybe I thought they were more so like, you know how there's like nighttime stories you tell your kids so they do good things?
Mm-hmm.
And those can be like fake or like an exaggerated story or a hyperbole in
Yeah.
order to ensure they don't do something.
Yeah.
That's how I always figured that the Bible was to
Yeah.
me.
Yep. And if you were did you have to go to, like when you guys went to church, if you were 12 or something, were you forced to do, the Sunday school type class thing?
Yeah, so we did the Sunday school
Yeah.
thing where like we highlighted the Bible, added stickers.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just laughing at the thing you remember is just so funny. We had stickers. Okay, so at that time, I guess if you were in one of those classes, you probably, if that's the way you thought of Jesus, you must have known this is not the way these other people think about him, and I better be careful about what I say. Is that the way you felt, or? Because I would think if you said to your teacher, yeah, I think this is just kind of a legend, and this story was invented to.
No, yeah, I knew there was like places I could talk about this, but definitely not at the Sunday school.
Yeah.
In the middle of like the
Yeah.
fray, but I was always just like, there's things I could say and be like, hey, why did Pastor so-and-so do this, but the Bible's saying this?
That would be the way you would do it, is you would sort of put them against what it actually says in the Bible, rather than talking about Jesus as legendary.
Yeah,
And that was your way of poking the bear.
yeah.
And do you think they recognized you as someone who was there trying to poke the bear in your own way, and they didn't really take you as a serious, true, whatever, believing Christian? Or were they just thinking, he's this nice Christian kid who has some questions about why we are coming up short of what Jesus taught?
I think I fell into the latter, so the second one.
Okay. So you were aware of that they didn't know you were probably not someone who actually believed this? Were you like aware that it was a put on? That would hardly be uncommon for kids.
I
You
feel
understand.
like like 50-50. I feel like I was aware that I was unsure with like if the Bible was real, but I was also extremely unaware of my social understanding
Yep.
of like social networks because I just like never really understood how a lot of them work oftentimes.
Yep.
Because I was a very like STEM kid. Like I would do a lot of like experiments and things at school and stuff, and that's like how I learned. But when it came to a lot of like social aspects like presentations, that was always hard for me to get into until like later on.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, a lot of kids that feel a pressure to please their parents or please the adults around them, and they are sort of a put on. I was, for sure. Well, no, that's not true. I forgot. I told everybody pretty early, like, I don't believe this stuff and I'm not doing it. And I remember telling my parents, like, there's no way I'm getting confirmed in this church or anything like that because I don't believe any of it. And so I guess I was, at that point, I wasn't to put on. But obviously, a lot of kids feel pressured to, they don't want to cause trouble for themselves, so they, they sort of pretend they kind of half believe it. I remember challenging some Sunday school teacher that because I normally didn't do any kind of Sunday school stuff because I refused to do it. But there was times I would go to church if I was with my dad more, and I'm trying to think of what was this Sunday school thing. I can't remember what it was, but it was something to that effect. And I remember specifically, I was in like 6th grade, saying to the teacher, like, how do we even know God exists? Because at that point, I was just kind of like, this is all just silliness. And I was trying to poke the bear.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that I wasn't like announcing I'm an atheist or something either. I was just trying to cause them trouble because I didn't think it was real. Anyway, so you were so you're in middle school and you're already kind of similar to what you're thinking now. Is that the way to say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then you weren't part of the secular world at all at that point, at like a high school or anything.
No.
I understand it. So you get into college, and by the way, was there any other catalyst that you felt like moved you into this? Was it just like an intellectual
No,
journey?
I feel like it was also like an emotional journey because from 15 to I think 20, I had to do a lot of court related things in regards to my father and his
Yeah.
imprisonment. And so I think seeing how he was and understanding the really like the bad things he did basically was kind of like the major catalyst,
Okay.
especially with him considering himself to be super religious
Yeah.
and just like seeing the contrast of why he's being imprisoned and like this persona he tries to put onto the world.
Yeah.
And seeing that contrast to me, that was really the main thing that pushed me into this like questioning sphere of like Christianity and like other religions.
Yeah, and it being a much deeper journey than just some sort of like intellectual journey. And I obviously, like, it's hard to ask questions like this because I just am, I like just absolutely hate to hear this has been your experience. I hate that, because I have kids and grandkids, and we have a very peaceful, enjoyable, we all have a very enjoyable time together. And I just hate it, And I had some really rough stuff too growing up. I hate some of the things I experienced, but I'm also thankful and that I was loved, and there were some good things too. But it's, it's like there's no way for that not to have influenced the way you view not just religion, but Christianity and God in the most general ways, the most profound personal ways. And they would have it's just awful to hear. So I hate to hear it. I'm sorry about it. And did you find in all that just sort of like, that's when you, like, would you have said like when you were 18, like maybe I still believe in God, or like in some more generic way, or by that point you were just like, yeah, I just don't think I can stomach any of this stuff? I mean, pre-energy.
No, yeah.
Your
When I was
energy view.
18, I'm pretty sure my belief, how did I describe it? I was just like, I was very closed off to the world. I feel like I was very, like, just taking the time to heal. I was really like, I was very sad almost. I was very like, nothing is good in the world. Nothing is like, it was very hard for me to find like points of joy to like ground myself with.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good way to describe it. And so going into college, I was just like, how can I find like ways to move past everything?
Yeah.
I feel like
And SSA has played,
it has played like
role
a
in
big
it.
role in that.
because you have a community of people.
I have a community of people who are just like, they've gone through different things, but we've all like come to like a similar way of viewing the world, no matter like our journey. And I feel
Yeah.
like there's like something profound in that.
Sure. I mean, it's a huge enjoyment to have people you surround with. Like, you can understand why Christians surround themselves with Christians, why secular people surround themselves with secular people, because there's a community that you have a similar outlook, similar value system, and you start to, have shared experiences. It's just a natural human, it's part of our human nature to seek community, and to what the Greeks called a polis, a city, a city-state. And we're by nature a political animal, said Aristotle, in that sense. Not political like Republican Democrat, but we like to live in company with. So so that's been encouraging to you.
Yeah.
And coming here, you even meet more people across, just like they're not just in San Antonio. And have you in that time, because we have to sort of wrap up the interview, have you in that time had anyone who is religious, Christian, let's say, because you're in San Antonio, outside of your mom, I guess, you have still good relationship with your mom?
Yes.
So, which is awesome. But outside of your mom, have you had anyone that like retained their Christianity and improved to be encouraging and still like a friend to you, whether it's at school or whatever?
Yeah, so I would say my mom's mom, so my grandma, she is still very, I know it's not Christian, but she's Catholic.
Well,
And
no, that's Christian. They're not Muslim. I mean, yeah, because you're viewing it from like your Christian perspective is that if you're Catholic, you're not really Christian. But actually, across the history of the church,
Yeah.
Since Jesus, the Western Church was centered, largely in Rome, and Roman Catholicism is certainly Christian. And they don't, they believe in the resurrection. They believe in the virgin birth. They believe a lot in salvations by grace.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of traditions in the Catholic Church that are pretty much, justifiably still viewed within the. I'm just laughing at yours. All right. So anyway, you've had Catholic friends, I guess,
Yeah.
is what you're saying, that you are that have been still a part of your world, that are encouraging, and they still retain their Christian beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you kind of I'm still thrown off by your. But. And okay, and they're still friends, I guess, at university. Yeah. Okay. And not part of SSA. What if they came and said we want to kind of do some things with SSA?
So
Because it's secular,
my
but
cousin is actually on campus, and they work with like this LGBTQ Baptist group, And so I know they're collaborating a lot with like the other organizations, but just like maybe because I feel like it can't be bad to host like the Muslim group at like one of our meetings or like the
And even I didn't even just mean like to formally come into a meeting per se. I just meant like you could have pizza
no, yeah.
together, and they and you the friends from the two groups could potentially get along, and it not just be
I feel like anyone can get along.
sure, of course. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed, there's a bit of a culture war that's raging underneath the surface that's proved to be even violent from both sides,
No,
and
yeah.
that temperature, the pot is brewing, is simmering
Yeah.
underneath the surface of all these conversations and groups and so on. So that's all I was talking about. Yeah, and I'd like to ask more questions. We need to wrap it up. I know.
Okay.
So I really appreciate that you came into the interview and shared your story, and I hope I didn't make you feel like I was probing into things I didn't, private things
No.
as such. Okay, good. But I appreciate you sharing your story.
You're welcome.
It's very powerful. And yeah, thanks for the interview.
Thank you so much.